Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Today I have got a load of stories for you lot. We are going to be talking Nkunku, Osimhen, Eden Hazard, David Raya, Cucurella, Lukaku, Gvardiol, Mason Mount and also Kobel from Borussia Dortmund. So this is a big news video. It could be a relatively long one, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, then well, you're going to miss being notified about these videos, so get the bell notifications turned on. And we're less than 1,000 away from the promised land of 250,000 Chelsea fans here on GBFC, which is madness. Hit the like button if you do enjoy. But without any further ado, we begin with the forgotten news story, I guess you could say. And there's been a lot of up and downs about people's feelings as to whether or not this is going to go down regarding Christopher Nkunku joining Chelsea in the summer from Red Bull Leipzig. Now, there's a few journalists that when they talk, you tend to listen. There are quite a few that have got very good records, and Fabrizio Romano, Mr. Here We Go, is one of those journalists that you listen to, and he also provided us with that moment in his live stream when Enzo Fernandez joined Chelsea on deadline day in January. And Fabrizio Romano is reminding everybody, because he keeps getting asked questions. Some of you guys asked me the question, is Nkunku still joining Chelsea? Never been in doubt. Nkunku is Chelsea player since December, valid from July the 1st, 2023. This is big, and Christopher Nkunku is going to join Chelsea regardless of whether or not this season we qualify for next year's UEFA Champions League. It's been a lot of people saying, oh, is he actually still going to join if Chelsea don't get Champions League? Will this jeopardise Nkunku signing for us for the beginning of next season? No. And I think Graham Potter, in terms of the way that he's planning for next season, a lot of the business that we'll see from Chelsea will be to try and blend in the best way to attack, knowing that Christopher Nkunku will be a Chelsea player. So in a video later on today, I'm going to discuss another individual that I actually think will join Chelsea, funnily enough, but I don't think he should. That is going to be your second video today. When we're looking and talking about attackers, if we segue now into the Victor Osimhen news, who you guys know when we've talked about strikers here on GBFC, Victor Osimhen, not just because of the record, but me personally, I just think he's a perfect striker for Chelsea, and it could have the same kind of impact as a Didier Drogba signing did when Mourinho wanted Drogba. He was relatively unknown. We got him from Marseille. With Osimhen, Chelsea are now competing with Man City, PSG, and Manchester United. And I think with all of these clubs that are interested, with Man City, they've just tied Julian Alvarez down to a new contract. They've got Erling Haaland scoring 5 goals against Nkunku's Leipzig last night in the Champions League. Mind-blowing game of football. And I think Man United will go hell for leather to try and sign Harry Kane, and they won't be able to sign both, in my opinion. So PSG, when they're saying that they need to cut their wage bill by 30-40% and losing some of their key players, I just don't think Victor Osimhen will go to PSG. I think he's a player who's actually got a lot more belief in himself to actually go somewhere where he can actually compete for big honours. No offence to PSG, but they will win the French League 9 times out of 10, and they will not ever win a Champions League because it is ingrained in their DNA. And I think any big player, considering going to Paris Saint-Germain at the moment, I think they're joining a project that is on a serious downward trajectory. I really do. So when we've narrowed down every other club, Chelsea seem like the one to go to, and he also walks straight into the team. Bayern Munich were also interested, but they won't be able to spend 100 million plus euros to buy Victor Osimhen. So I think Chelsea are in a position where this is a massive window. I know we said this with the last 2 windows, spending £600, but Chelsea need to, if we're talking about this project and we're talking about investing into the future, we have made so many great signings, and things in the last week have looked as though they're on an upward curve with Graham Potter in charge. But this summer, there are key positions that will absolutely 110% need to be strengthened without fail. And a number 9, a striker, is one of them. Christopher Nkunku is very similar to João Felix. Kai Havertz, we know he's not a number 9. He's a 9.5 in the words of previous manager Thomas Tuchel. So Osimhen is the guy that I want. We move into the Eden Hazard story. A lot of you were frustrated with me the other day for even suggesting that Hazard may come back and why it could be a good idea. So you guys know it is a very sentimental thing for me. He's probably my favourite Chelsea player ever. Eden Hazard has said, for me, I will still be at Real Madrid next season, but you never know. Me and Ancelotti, there is respect, but we don't talk to each other. I miss playing football, I want to play, I want to have fun. With the way I read this, it's a very Eden Hazard response. Of course, he can't go ahead and say he's leaving Real Madrid because he's contracted to Real Madrid, and Madrid probably won't want to sell unless a decent offer was to come in. And the fact that he doesn't talk to his manager, isn't playing football, wants to play football, is basically, come and get me, someone, help me enjoy my football again. And I think he probably won't come back to Chelsea because I think there's been no concrete talks that Chelsea are even considering bringing him back, and Chelsea are building a progressive team to keep winning football matches. And if Hazard's not been playing, it's not like we're going to be able to just buy him back and get that Eden Hazard that we sold. So for me, I don't think it's going to work, but we'll see. Who signs him? He could go to a Premier League club. He really could. We move into the next story. This is a big one today. Ben Chilwell at Manchester City. It's been reported by Ben Jacobs, and this tweet is through Simon Phillips. Right now, there is no contact between Man City and Ben Chilwell. Excellent news. And the 26-year-old isn't thinking about a move away. Chelsea don't have a price in mind because they are not planning to sell him. This is as good news as we could possibly get regarding Ben Chilwell. I don't think Chelsea should remotely be considering selling one of our most important players to Manchester City because we want to get to where Man City are at under Guardiola. And the fact that Chelsea don't have a price isn't a surprise for me either, because Chelsea didn't buy Cucurella, in my opinion, last summer with the idea of selling Chilwell this year. I don't think that was the move from Chelsea. So at the moment, this is great. I hope it stays that way. I don't want Ben Chilwell to leave Chelsea. If you saw yesterday's video, I outlined 3 key players for the potential success of Graham Potter's project, and Ben Chilwell was one of them. I'll leave a link to that video in the description if you haven't seen it. It was a good one. We were talking about formations, key players and stuff. So yeah, at the moment, there's no chance that Chilwell leaves and joins Man City. Fabulous news indeed. Inter Milan, the CEO is talking about Romelu Lukaku again. I feel as though whatever kind of good mood and energy we've got, as soon as I bring up Lukaku's name, I just feel like sighing. It feels like the natural thing to do. It's just like, oh great, we got to talk about him again. Chelsea just need to sell this bloke. This is what Marotta has said, the Inter Milan CEO. Lukaku deal? He will return to Chelsea as it's straight loan, it's part of the deal, then we will see. Lukaku is not in good condition yet. This guy just doesn't take himself seriously. We are still waiting to see the real Romelu as we saw in the past. This is exactly the same way that we need to look at the Eden Hazard deal. Lukaku, ever since he signed for Chelsea, it's as if he's got his massive payday and then he doesn't really care about being the top level professional footballer that he was and can still well be. He's not that old. So Lukaku not in good condition now. Inter Milan not in financial good condition. Chelsea, let's be realistic, we're not going to be able to offload Lukaku to Inter Milan on a permanent deal. The only way this will work is if Chelsea budge from their current stance, which is we're not going to loan Lukaku again next season on the same terms that we've loaned him this year. I think Chelsea are in a sticky position here because when you look at what Lukaku's done at Inter Milan, you hear the CEO of the club he's currently playing for coming out and saying he's not in good condition. We are waiting to see the real Romelu of the past. Chelsea are going to struggle to sell this guy for anywhere close to a reasonable sum. Chelsea will look back on this transfer as the worst transfer in the history of our football club. I've said it time and time again. I mean, I think we're going to struggle to offload him here. And I really hope that if the summer winds on and we have not signed top striker targets, if Osimhen goes somewhere else, we don't get Harry Kane, I really hope we don't gamble on next season trying to make Lukaku work again at Chelsea. I really don't want to see this. Marc Cucurella is set to be rewarded for Chelsea resurgence with a Spain recall. This isn't major Chelsea news. I tend to not really talk too much about Chelsea players on international duty, but if there is a player who has blown up in the last 10 days, Marc Cucurella is probably the epitome of Chelsea's glow up. A player who went from being booed by his own fans to arguably putting in 2 close to man of the match performances, if not 1 guaranteed man of the match display. Cucurella absolutely deserves his Spain call-up, so congratulations to big man Marc. We also spoke the other day about Mason Mount, and within that video I gave my thoughts on why I hope Chelsea managed to resolve the Mason Mount contract situation, but at the same time why I do think it's possibly more likely that Chelsea will sell him in the summer. So we've had developments on Mason Mount. He's been in the Chelsea news a lot this week, and Matt Law has said Todd Boehly initially handled talks over Mason Mount's contract himself, while Chelsea put together a new sporting and recruitment team, but the matter was passed on to co-sporting director Paul Winstanley after the World Cup, which meant negotiations were effectively put back to square one. We've got to psychologically approach this from Mason Mount's potential point of view here, because if the owner of the club, the new owner of the club, is coming to you, trying to get you to sign a new deal, if I was Mount, I'd be delighted that the owner of the club that you're playing for is personally trying to negotiate with you to try and get you to stay. All of a sudden, whatever progress, which at the moment, that progress is all up in the air in terms of how much of it there genuinely was quantifiably. That progress, of course, is going back to square one when Todd Boehly removes himself from those conversations and hands it over to brand new members of staff at Chelsea Football Club. And whatever progress was made, of course, just went back to square one. Now, I don't know if this is Mount feeling as though, okay, the owner doesn't want to deal with me anymore, clearly don't want me. I don't know. I highly doubt that. He's a grown man. That's a very childish thing to do, if that is the case, because whether or not it's Boehly the one negotiating with you or Paul Winstanley, that contract is of the same value no matter who had the conversation. It's what's put in front of the table and you sign and you get paid. I think the Mount situation, the more I look at the feedback on that video I posted the other day, the more I see journalists talking about Mount's situation at Chelsea, it just looks like a real mess, doesn't it? And I think it can only jeopardise the squad and Mount's performances and the price, if we have to sell him, that we don't know right now. We've got to get this one done before the end of the season, arguably before the Champions League quarter-final draw in 2 days' time. The next story is Cesar Azpilicueta has spoken to Brentford goalkeeper David Raya about a potential move to Stamford Bridge. Now, I'm going to tie this story in with the potential interest from Chelsea in Borussia Dortmund's goalkeeper Gregor Kobel. They've met with an agent of the Swiss goalkeeper who wants to stay at least one more year with Dortmund, who have no intention to sell. Chelsea probably will be in the market for a goalkeeper. We've got Gabriel Slonina knocking on the door for a few years' time, but between Kepa and Edouard Mendy, there have been moments of brilliance. At the moment, you could say this is the best brilliant spell that Kepa has had. Edouard Mendy, Champions League run between January and May of winning the Champions League under Tuchel, absolutely the best run he had at the club. And neither goalkeeper have really stood out as your Ederson of Man City, your David De Gea, I guess you could say, at Man United, or your Alisson at Liverpool. And I think that is a massive position where Chelsea will look to strengthen. Because both Kepa and Mendy, neither of them will want to be a number two. They might still alternate now that Mendy's back in training again. So I think it's good that Chelsea are linked with both Raya, who's doing well at Brentford, but is he an upgrade? Kobel as well at Borussia Dortmund played well against us, but once more, I don't know if it's that level of goalkeeper where I could confidently say that, yeah, Chelsea are doing the right thing here. We're going for upgrades on Kepa or Edouard Mendy. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. And the final story of the day is light-hearted, of course, because we know we've spoke about it last week. Josko Gvardiol is still wanted by Chelsea Football Club, competition from Liverpool and Man City. Also, last night, he had an awful game, didn't he? Leipzig in general were just blown away by Man City last night. All started with a penalty that wasn't a penalty, and they were beaten 7-0. So Manchester City are in the Champions League draw, and I think Gvardiol is that level of player where Chelsea being in the Champions League could be the make or break decision as to whether or not he signs for us or signs for a rival like a City or a Liverpool. So as much as the starting story about a Leipzig player, and Nkunku, doesn't matter if Champions League or not, he is going to be a Chelsea player. With Josko Gvardiol, I think he belongs in the Champions League and he will sign for a club this summer who make it into Europe's elite next season. But Chelsea are interested, still not convinced by Koulibaly is the reason why. But anyway, going to wrap up this Chelsea news video for you guys now. I really hope you did enjoy it. As I said at the start, we are crawling, but getting there slowly towards 250,000 Chelsea fans, which would be an honour for me to be able to say at the beginning of a video. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button if you enjoyed this one, and stay tuned to the channel because you've got another video coming your way later on today. Come on, you Blues.